The first sign of trouble wasn't the clipboard, was the flashing orange vest. I was sipping coffee on my porch when a man I'd never seen before parked an HOA-marked golf cart at the base of my driveway. The engine sputtered, the wheels crackled over my gravel, and he stepped out like he owned the place. He raised a hand. "Sir, I'm doing a patrol for the Lakeside Estates, HOA. Routine inspection." I nearly laughed. My property sat half a mile outside the HOA boundary line. My roadwalker's hollow lane was a private easement, recorded on the county plat in my name. I built it myself after the county refused maintenance, paid for the asphalt, installed the gate, posted a sign, "Private drive, no HOA access." I set my mug down. "You're trespassing," I said evenly. He glanced at the sign and smirked. "Well, the board wants to make sure all community roads meet our safety standards." I snapped a photo with my phone time, date, face, vehicle tag. Community roads, not mine. He ignored me, climbed back into his cart, and started rolling farther up the lane. The audacity burned hotter than my coffee. I watched the taillights fade behind my tool shed, where the asphalt met the tree line. That's where the HOA's survey markers stopped. By noon, a notice appeared in my mailbox: road maintenance violation. Lakeside Estates, HOA, fine, $250, action required. Regrade and repaint speed limit markings within 10 business days. They even had the nerve to CC the county zoning office, as if intimidation by letterhead would do the trick. That's when I decided this wasn't just arrogance. This was overreach. The next week, the harassment ramped up. Every other day, another vest, another inspection. One guy walked the ditches with a clipboard, jotting notes like a traffic engineer. Another took photos of my mailbox. They'd park near my gate and record speeding vehicles. Mine. I stayed calm. The HOA thrived on reaction. I thrived on documentation. My first move was evidence. I installed 2 trail cams at the entry post and one under the eave of my workshop, angled toward the road. Motion triggered, time-stamped, infrared. If they so much as scratched a tire past the property line again, it'd be on video. Then I pulled the plat map from my closing documents and cross-checked it with the county GIS system. The boundary line was unmistakable. The HOA's authority stopped exactly 0.48 miles south of my gate. I printed 3 copies, one for myself, one for my lawyer, one for whoever their compliance committee claimed to be. A few days later, my cameras caught a gem. 8:12 a.m. HOA President, Karen Lanning herself, in her pearl earrings and pastel blazer, striding up my road with 2 board members. She pointed at my sign, then waved her arms like a traffic conductor. Her lips formed the words, "We'll just claim it's shared access, shared access." Right. That phrase would become their undoing. By the end of the week, I filed a trespass notice with the sheriff's office. Deputy Colton, a local I knew from high school, stopped by. "Technically, you're in the clear," he said, tapping the survey pin near my gate. "HOA jurisdiction ends right there." "Want me to deliver a warning?" "Not yet," I said. "Let them dig their own hole." I wanted a paper trail, so I baited the hook. I installed a small trail sign that read, "Under county easement, authorized personnel only. Violators recorded." The next morning, the HOA group chat exploded on their Facebook page. I know, because a neighbor sent screenshots. Karen called me a problem homeowner who thinks he's above community rules. One board member commented, "We can't let him set a precedent." Exactly what I needed. Written proof of intent. That Sunday, 3 golf carts rolled up my lane again, orange vests gleaming. They stopped, took pictures, and peeled off when my doorbell cam's speaker blared. "Smile. You're outside HOA territory." The footage caught every startled face. By now, I had enough for a solid case file: videos, timestamps, public statements, GPS coordinates, the whole chain of custody. But I wasn't done. I wanted to see how far they'd go once they realized I wasn't bluffing. I emailed Karen directly. "Dear Ms. Lanning, please provide the HOA's jurisdictional authority over Walker's Hollow Lane, including deed references, and county filings establishing shared maintenance." 2 hours later, her reply landed like a confession. Our board operates under implied community access, as described in the Lakeside Estates Charter. That charter hadn't been amended since 1987, and my parcel wasn't even part of it. I forwarded her email to my attorney. "Looks like we're heading into the fun part," he wrote back. And that's when I knew they weren't just trespassing. They were building a legal disaster for themselves. Brick by Smug Brick. The following Monday, a fresh envelope slid under my gate. Bright red stamp. Final notice. Enforcement action pending. I tore it open. Inside was a formal cease and desist order directed at me. The HOA demanded that I stop obstructing community patrols and comply with Lakeside Estates road safety standards. I smiled. The audacity was almost art. They'd attached a grainy photo of my private drive sign and cited Section 14C of the Charter as justification for shared access. But I knew that clause. I'd read it, line by line. Section 14C covered sidewalk maintenance inside HOA property, not private roads outside it. They'd overreached so far, they were quoting irrelevant bylaws. So I did what they never expected. I replied with precision. I drafted a letter addressed to both the HOA board and their property management firm, subject unauthorized enforcement and trespass on private easement. Dear board members, the road identified as Walker's Hollow Lane is a private easement recorded under parcel number 43172100904. Per county register, map 1 to B. Your patrols have entered this property without authorization multiple times since September 4th. Continued access will result in civil trespass claims and a petition for injunctive relief. Kindly confirm in writing that all patrol activity and enforcement correspondence regarding this property will cease immediately. Regards, Ryan Walker. Then I attached the surveillance screenshot scoring and her crew Midstride and CCD, their lawyer, the county zoning officer, and my own attorney, Mark Dillard. It was quiet for 3 days. Then the fireworks began. Karen didn't back down. She doubled down that Friday. I came home to find a fresh layer of white paint sprayed across the end of my drive. 15 mph in orange cones blocking half the lane. A laminated sign was zip-tied to my fence. Road under HOA safety review. Do not remove. My trail cam captured 2 board members doing it at dawn, laughing while they worked. That was the last straw. I walked into Mark's office that afternoon carrying a folder thicker than a textbook. Photos, emails, timestamps, plat maps, GPS overlays. He flipped through them, whistling low. "You've got them cold," he said. "We'll start with a cease and desist of our own, and I'll request an emergency injunction for property interference. But before that, let's make them talk." "Talk how?" I asked. "Publicly." Mark drafted a notice of intent to litigate and filed it with the county clerk. Under state law, HOA boards are required to discuss pending litigation during open session if the issue affects community funds, which meant their next meeting would be on record. The following Wednesday, I walked into the Lakeside Estates clubhouse wearing jeans and a calm smile. The air smelled like coffee and power trips. Karen sat at the head of the table, pearls gleaming under fluorescent lights, a stack of printed violations in front of her. When my name came up on the agenda, the room went still. Karen cleared her throat. "Mr. Walker, while we appreciate your concerns, your road intersects with HOA property. Therefore, patrol jurisdiction is implied." I set a rolled-up document on the table, a folklore aerial survey. "You're mistaken. This line here, see the pin? That's the end of your boundary. Your own filings stop right there." She frowned. "That can't be right." I unrolled the second sheet, county verification, signed by the surveyor. "It is certified. Filed. Public record." Gasps around the room. Karen's lips tightened. Even so, our intent was community safety. Mark stepped in. He'd been waiting by the back wall, silent until now. "Intent doesn't override jurisdiction. What you've done is repeated trespass and unauthorized marking of private property. You've also misused HOA funds for enforcement outside your purview. That's embezzlement by the location." The color drained from her face. A board member leaned toward her and whispered, "Karen, we need to stop." But she didn't. She called for a vote to assert control over my road, anyway. Every word went into the meeting minutes, and Mark made sure the recorder caught it all when we left that night. The case was already halfway won. The next morning, Mark filed for a temporary restraining order against the HOA's patrol activity. Within 48 hours, a county judge granted it, complete with an order to remove all signage, cones, and paint from Walker's Hollow Lane. Deputy Colton supervised the cleanup personally. Stood on my porch as the HOA crew scraped their own stenciled Keynes MPH off my asphalt under the deputy's watchful eye. Karen avoided looking up as she worked. Colton gave me a nod. You handled this cleaner than most folks would. I shrugged. Documentation beats confrontation. By that afternoon, Karen had sent an email to the entire community, claiming miscommunication about jurisdiction. But it was too late. The paper trail was public. Local homeowners started asking questions. How much HOA money had she spent patrolling land that wasn't theirs? A week later, I got a call from a local reporter. Mr. Walker, we heard your HOA is being investigated for overreach. Mind if we talk? I smiled. Sure, but you might want to bring a map. 2 weeks after the cleanup, my driveway was quiet again until the story hit local news. The headline read, HOA oversteps boundaries. Lakeside Board under investigation for misuse of funds. It was short, factual, and devastating. The article quoted the county zoning officer, who confirmed that Walker's Hollow Lane does not fall under HOA jurisdiction. My survey map appeared right beside it, within hours. My inbox filled with neighbor messages, some apologetic, others furious at the board. One resident wrote, Karen's been pulling this stunt for years. You just finally caught it on record. By that weekend, the HOA held an emergency members-only meeting to do damage control. They didn't realize Mark and I had already filed a petition for summary judgment, fast-track civil case, seeking restitution for property damage, trespass, and emotional distress. But the real nail in their coffin came from their own emails. Remember that group chat my neighbors, the one where Karen said, we can't let him set a precedent? Mark subpoenaed the full thread. Turns out, they'd used HOA funds to buy those cones, rent equipment, and even pay for a private patrol contractor. Their treasurer had signed every check. That meant misappropriation of association. Mania. Big legal red flag. The HOA's lawyer, trying to control the fallout, requested mediation. We agreed, but only if it was recorded. The meeting took place in a bland conference room downtown, walls beige as paperwork. Karen showed up with her usual air of confidence, shoulders back. Pearl earrings, sharp under fluorescent light, but the tension in her eyes betrayed her. Her attorney started first. My client acknowledges a boundary misunderstanding and wishes to resolve this matter amicably. Mark leaned forward. A misunderstanding doesn't involve repeated trespass, vandalism, or falsified enforcement letters. We're open to resolution, but not revisionist history. Karen huffed. We were protecting the community. I stayed quiet until the moment mattered. Then I slid a USB drive across the table. That's your patrol footage on my cameras. You crossed onto private property 6 times in 1 month. Here's every timestamp and GPS coordinate. Her lawyer inserted the drive. The screen showed the HOA golf cart bouncing over my gravel, cones in the back, Karen pointing like a foreman. Each clip had a date, time, and coordinates blinking in the corner. When the second video played, showing her ordering someone to spray the 15 mph stencil, her lawyer closed the laptop slowly and sighed. He turned to her. Karen, did you authorize this? Her silence was answer enough. The settlement terms came fast after that. The HOA agreed to pay $18,000 in damages covering cleanup, repainting, and legal costs. They also issued a public apology, retracting all previous fines and violations related to my property. But the kicker: Karen had to personally sign the apology letter. It was posted to the HOA newsletter and pinned to their Facebook page for 30 days. The Lakeside Estates HOA Board, acknowledged that Walker's Hollow Lane is a privately owned easement outside HOA jurisdiction. We regret our previous actions and any distress caused to Mr. Ryan Walker. That single paragraph did more than clear my name, rewrote the power dynamic in the entire neighborhood for the first time. Homeowners realized the board wasn't untouchable. At the next election, Karen lost her position by a landslide. The new president, my neighbor, Alex, the same guy who'd sent me the screenshots. A month later, Alex invited me to the community barbecue. At first, I hesitated. Old habits die hard. But I went. When I pulled up, the same folks who once whispered about that stubborn guy on the hill now waved me over. Kids ran around, the smell of grilled corn filled the air, and for once, nobody was wearing a reflective vest. Alex raised a cup. To Ryan for reminding us that rules only work when they're real. I chuckled. And for reminding everyone where the property lines actually end. The crowd laughed. Even Deputy Colton showed up, off duty, nodding with quiet approval as the sun dipped behind the pines. I looked down the slope, toward my road-clean asphalt. No cones, no signs, just peace. Epilogue. In the end, it wasn't about fines, cones, or patrols. It was about principle, about the idea that boundaries, once drawn and recorded, mean something. If you ever find yourself in a similar fight, don't yell. Document if someone trespasses, don't retaliate. Record. And when the time comes, let the evidence do the talking. Because sometimes, the best revenge is proof. If you've ever dealt with an HOA that overstepped its bounds, drop your story below. And if you like seeing arrogance meet accountabilities, subscribe for more homeowner justice.